these dudes made a sticker with like the red laser eyes, and it said "Teamwork makes it." They sent me a T-shirt with that on it. Now, here's what happened. Some guys made that into a sticker, and on January 5th, which was the day before the Capitol, they were walking around like, and they stuck this sticker. I was not there. I was down. I don't even know if I was in North Carolina, but I wasn't up there. And they stuck this sticker on a elected representative's door, and here's a little picture of me in a bathing suit going, "Teamwork makes the dream work."
That picture, yeah.
They posted that on Twitter, and I thought it was funny because I was like, "Oh Jesus, here we go." And all I wrote was this: "We are everywhere, we are nowhere." And then the next day was a Capitol riot. So there were people coming after me. I actually got in touch with Outdoor Channel. I said, "Hey, just so you know, this is a little weird because their Outdoor Channel was super cool, but I said I wasn't there. These guys, I didn't know they were going to put this sticker up, but it became kind of a thing where people were like, look at this white supremacist." I was like, I wasn't even there. I wasn't even there. So it's like, yeah, that was damn, dude. That was like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be in trouble for something I didn't even do. I had nothing to do with.
Battle Line podcast. It is hard to believe that we are at episode 250. That's amazing to
Wow.
me. And it's also crazy that it's taken this long to have Terry Schappert on, because quite honestly, Terry Schappert is probably one of the first special operation veterans that I ever met. We were both fans of Andrew Wilkow before ever meeting him, and he ended up meeting him and coming on the show. I ended up meeting Andrew and working on the show, and through that, I've met so many people. But anyway, people probably see that you are successfully back from your hip replacement, which people are wondering how you're doing.
Oh man, I've told a lot of people that have asked, even though I don't get out much right now. It feels like somebody hit me in the leg with a sledgehammer about 5 or 6 times, and it's the hip is actually great, but and I won't get into it, but you've got to do so much invasive manipulation to get a new hip, because I've got a basically my hip's gone. It's metal. I've got a bionic leg and a bionic metal ball where the hip is.
Crazy.
But there's more to it than that. And so I wish I could show you pictures of all the bruising in my leg, but it's tremendous. And then the scar that's up near my giblets. So I'm not going to show a picture of that, even though my giblets aren't very big, so I can edit that out. But the scar up front, it's pretty amazing to me. It's painful a little bit. I'm walking already, though. I'm only 9 days after surgery. I'm already walking fine, doing therapy, of course, going up and down stairs. I posted that picture. But to me, it's still amazing in all the problems in the medical field. We talk about CDC and all that. It's still amazing the things that we can do to improve people's lives in the medical world, and especially in the orthopedic world, with new knees, new shoulders, new hips. And it really, I know this is going to improve it. I can already tell because my hip doesn't hurt. It's just the bruising because of you have to cut in and bruise the muscle. It's just how it goes. And and with the Dr. Nilsson over there at Delano Orthopedic, who does my stuff, who did my knee as well, they're still good people. He just was one of the most wonderful people that I've met, and he's done both of my major surgeries. He's just so nice, man. It just takes the time, even though you see he's in a hurry. He's all business, but he's always so informative he's always telling me what's going on. He's giving me advice. I mean, right after I woke up from surgery, he's in the room. He's going, dude, check out your picture. And he shows me the X-ray. I mean, it's a great feeling to know that even in all the craziness going on, after something like this traumatic, that is traumatic to your body, that there's still a doctor, even though doctors, because, and rightfully so, some of them get a really bad name. There still are doctors out there that really give a shit, man. And it was the whole experience so far has been wonderful. I'll be quite honest, aside from the soreness and
Yeah.
the uncomfortability, but it's been amazing. So I want to shout out to Dr. Nelson, my orthopedic surgeon in Galena Orthopedic, and also all the doctors out there that are you're still helping people and putting people's lives, I don't say above your own, but at a pedestal where you want them to get better. And it was great to see that especially after, the last time I talked to you, it was the Trump assassination. So it was good to have that positive moment.
And we should say Trump assassination attempt. He was not
Attempt. Sorry about that.
assassinated.
Yeah, please, God, no, please, let's not go through that, man. Again, let's not do that. But it was wonderful, bud, and I wanted to make sure I got that out there, not just because of me, but just there still are great people out there that care and are really taking care of other people that need help, like myself, and it's just going to better my life and give me some longevity into basically breaking it again. So my race, I'll just be right back at it, breaking it again. But I can go
I
back
hope
to
not.
being.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of people in the audience have been wondering how you're doing, so it's great to see you back on the show after just 1 week of being away. So
Thank
before
you.
we get to this interview with Terry Schappert, I have to say it's actually interesting that you're talking about, these are more severe pains, but especially if you're dealing with something that is painful, man, CBD really does wonders
Yeah.
for a lot of people who are dealing with not just stuff like post-traumatic stress, but if they're dealing with problematic areas, joint pain, muscle pain,
Yeah.
CBD is amazing, and so is actually their relief balm. If you don't have like a great nighttime ritual of getting a great night's sleep and feeling relieved the next day, Ned is really the brand to do that for you. I'm a huge fan of the Brain Blend because not only does it have that CBD, but it's also a nootropic. So in there, you're getting the ginseng, the ginkgo biloba leaf, the lion's mane, all of these basically botanicals that are going to help with your brain function, with your memory. And so it's really like a 2-in-1 supplement. You take that at night, you get a great night's sleep, but then you feel alert the next day and ready to work, ready to do whatever it is you're going to do at the best function possible, for all of you guys who work in a job where you're using your brain and using your mind constantly, which is many of us. So check out Ned, any of those supplements that I've mentioned, as well as their mellow magnesium. And I really can't stress it enough. These are premium products. This is not stuff you're going to find on the shelves of
Yeah.
Walmart or Target. This is grown in the USA, CBD. So that is why, there is a little bit of a premium price tag on that, but it's actually supplements that are going to work and that are going to profoundly change your life. So check it out. HelloNed.com/BattleLine, or add the code BattleLine at checkout. That's HelloNed.com/BattleLine. With that, let's get right over to Green Beret, Terry Schappert.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The switch is on. Battle Line Podcast. Chris is back from a successful hip replacement, and someone we've been meaning to get on the show now for a long time. And truthfully, like, the reason I haven't is I'm used to seeing Terry just doing new project after new project, and I actually have no idea what Terry has been up to. So for the first time on the show, for episode 250, Terry Schappert, retired Army Special Forces Master Sergeant, veteran of the Persian Gulf War, Bosnia, and Iraq. And truthfully, someone I've known a very long, probably 15 years. So it's great to do this.
Yeah, right on, dude. If people don't know, Ian was such a great guy. He used to work for, dude, you're always cool. And he used to work for Will Cow. And that's how we met. And
that's how I met Chris too. I feel like I met so many. I met Brandon Webb. I met all these people.
Well, Andrew, he's the ugliest son of a, but he's just the nicest guy in the world, isn't he? Will Cow is just, he's just like, dude, you. When I first met him, tell me what you thought of it. When I first met him, like, dude, this dude definitely has a face for radio. And if Will Cow's listening out there, he knows this. I've said it to his face before, so I'm not saying anything behind his back. But he is one of the smartest, most intelligent people I've ever met as well.
By the way, he'll be the first to admit. He's first to admit he goes, "I have a face for radio." I met that cat when I was doing, I had my first big show. I can tell you about my background later, but I had a TV show. My first big break, I had a show called Warriors on History Channel. And I had been listening to Andrew for a while. He used to sub in for Levin on ABC radio. I was living in New York. And I was like, this dude's really effing smart. And then, yeah, long story short, I forget how I got on his show to sort of talk about the show Warriors. And from that point on, we were always friends. I've been shooting with him. I've been to his house, met his family. Yeah, and he is one of the absolutely smartest dudes out there. Like he's really, really smart. He knows what's going on. Yeah.
Definitely. You don't want to get in a game of intelligence with him because you're gonna lose. That's all right. That's all right. I'll take my looks over his smarts. Well, my old looks, not anymore. Now I'm just a narcissist pig, aren't I? Sorry about that, guys. My bad.
Now you're just an old bitter dude like me. Toronto. I'm sorry. It is what it is. We're just a couple of old dudes. We are now in the community, guys. If you don't know it, we are what's called FAGs. We're former acting guys.
I've actually never heard that.
We've never said that on the show, but yeah, that's old school, man. That's back in the old Jody call days.
Former action guy here. Former action guy.
Yes. But we started talking about it a little bit. I know. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
No. Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
I did want to, because we're jumping, but I want to get in. Yeah. Talk about that Task Force Dagger, the diving that you're doing, the couple stories that you just had. That was super cool, man.
Well, I was active duty for like 9 years. I graduated from college, and on a random event, bro, I was on my way to go to grad school at Duke. I was an anthropology, but a bio major. And I was actually thinking about coming like a primate vet. I wanted to work on great apes. By the way, spent the rest of my life with primates when I went in the military. But anyway, so like, yeah, dude, I graduated. I read a book about like Mac V. Sog, and I was like, I saw the picture of these cats. I was like, I want to be that guy who's like, obviously he's got this big tiger, this wolf grin and tiger stripes, and he's clearly laughing at death. And I was like, let me see if I can do that. So I enlisted in the Army, and I know you were a Range Battalion guy. I was in the 82nd. I went to Range School from the 82nd, and then I wanted to be a Green Beret. So yeah, I went to selection. I was at 18 Delta, an SF medic in Germany, up to 97. Yeah, I was in C-110. I was in the SIF there, and then I was just like, I was in for 9 years. I was like, you know what? I've kind of done what I wanted to do, and so then I took a complete weird turn. I went back to New York City, and I went to classical theater school on Broadway. So basically I went to a conservatory for 2 years full time. And then I was a working professional actor in Manhattan. I mean, I got to play like Macbeth. I choreographed the fights because I used to be a fencer, all this kind of weird crap. And then stuff was going well. And then, 9/11 happened. So I'm at the beach right now. I live in the Outer Banks. And I had just come down here the night before 9/11. And I was with my girl at the time, and I was like, I watched, what happened, and I was like, well, shit, I think I got to do something. I got to get back in. So I looked into some things. I got some funny government stories about applying to the FBI. That's funny. But my old team sergeant said, you don't want to work for the FBI. They're a bunch of nerds. They're not like us. So and by the way, he was right. And so I was going to go active duty at SF back again, but I ended up going to the Guard. I went to 19th Group out of Rhode Island. I was in there for 16 years. I retired in 2016, and then, I got a big break. I had a TV show on History Channel called Warriors, and then I hosted Shark Week, and I was on this Discovery Survival show, and I have a show now called Hollywood Weapons, blah, 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 blah. And the whole time,
by the way, I mean, but you have a natural ability for hosting. You really do. It's not like you just got some lucky break, because I think just even meeting you, you're a charismatic guy, yet at the same time, like you're able to spotlight the other people that you're featuring on these shows,
and you don't come across as, when I watch some guys, you're just, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're arrogant as shit. I don't want to look at you. I know you've never been on a 2A range, but here you are talking about, and you never came across like that. My favorite was Close Quarter Battle. That was my favorite show, especially because
I did that film. I filmed that in the Czech Republic because I speak Czech fluently, and I thought they were going to have me do that show in Czech, and instead, you'll appreciate this, Chris. At the end of it all, I was like, okay, no, we're going to show it in Europe and everything, and it was on in the Czech Republic, and they had to dub me in Czech, even though I could have spoken Czech.
Okay, why they do what they?
With TV, it's a funny thing because there's always someone better than you. There's always someone who's got more experience than you. Someone's better than you, and I think people think, oh, you're a Green Beret. I'm like, dude, yeah, I'm a knucklehead. But I think the one thing that I think I did well at is that I cared for the guys. When I was a team sergeant, they didn't work for me. I worked for them. And I think you have to be, here I am talking about myself, talking about being humble, but you have to be humble. You have to, right now. I don't know what you're talking about. But I mean, I think humility is a good thing. Fake humility is bullshit, but real humility, you don't have all the answers. You're not the baddest mofo on the planet. I mean, I was surrounded by guys who had more, if not at least as much, if not more experience than me. So it's not like, you're not going to go in there, as a dick measuring contest. You're going to lose. And so I think, and I also told guys, I got guys auditions to do TV stuff that might have potentially taken work out of my mouth. But I always thought there's guys in our community get kind of like, I don't know, pissed off or weird about this. Like, oh, screw you. I'm like, dude, I've never acted like that. And I've also got guys auditions, and my advice to anybody in the military who's going to do TV stuff, I told one of my best friends, Nick Guy, he's I got him an audition. He got signed with my agent, but I was like, Nick, remember this: you are way more interesting than what you think they want to see, because you think they want to see this stoic bad mofo, and instead be yourself. Like, you have to not be afraid to fall on your ass. If you watch my TV shit, I laugh at myself a lot, because I can tell you, in our world, whether it's Ranger Regiment, Special Forces, or infantry, any combat arms, if you have a thin skin and you take yourself too seriously, we are going to hammer you. We're going to hammer you. And you will quickly, dude, we're the worst with each other. Like, insults are thrown all the time.
We are Shark Week, definitely. Yeah, it's Shark Week when somebody has
Shark Week. And if we see something that pisses you off, we're going to find that joint in our arm, we're going to stab it over and over again. And people could be in a team room or in a rifle squad and hear the insults that we hurl at each other, the racial stuff, the sexual stuff. They would think we are. I see Bronto laughing because he knows this, and it's because in our world, political correctness is bullshit. It's a fake construct. What we have is love, and love comes. It's a decision. It's a choice. It's not an emotion. It's an agreement. It's an agreement where we put our hands in the middle and go, "Hey, dude." I tell people all the time, I go, think about the reason why guys like us get jammed up, Chris, when we get out. It's not that we miss the cool shit. We do. We love the violence. I say we love planning, conducting, executing, and surviving high quality violence. We do. That's our job. But I think what I miss, what I miss the most is the relationships with those guys, and being able to just think about the kind of place we had. A workplace, Chris, where when we would walk into a team room or whatever, every dude in there will die for you. And every dude in there will expect you to die for them. Every dude in there will kill for you, but you are expected to kill for them. And there's no other civilian job. I mean, I've done cool shit with TV. I teach, blah, 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 blah. None of that replaces that kind of workplace. And so when guys get out, and you're in a place where like that kind of commitment is not honored or respected, it's kind of hard. Like, how do you fit in coming from, right? I mean, do you know what you know exactly what I'm saying.
No, I think also what we're talking about with the banter, we can't be really ourselves because we might offend somebody where it don't give to. I want to offend you. That's what I'm coming in to do. And if I don't offend you, then something's wrong. Then okay, bud, what's up? We got issues. We're not. Are you pissed at me? And that's what's hard to do. I'm not trying to put Ian on the spot here because I'm not. But we did this. We were trying to do a video when the assassination attempt happened, and I kept smiling, and I got what Ian was saying. He was perfectly right. He's like, person just got shot and you're smiling. But what was bringing back in my head was some of the things that we had done downrange that I was smiling at because of the protection. It wasn't because, of course, it's atrocious. The president was terrible. It's come on.
Yeah.
And then the fiasco after but it was, I can't explain it to Ian or somebody else of why it wasn't anything. It just was, man, I'm not trying to be offensive. I promise you I'm not, but it's just that incident was reminding me of the times that I had in Iraq where shit like that would happen. And I was thinking of the guys and thinking of
you almost have sometimes when shit is so bad or so crazy. You're giggling like you're giggling in a firefight. I was like, this is happening. And I just, and listen, I think a lot of men a lot of guys, I'm friends with plenty of dudes that did not take the path that we took, but they see the world the way we do in a way. And so that's how you can still have a long-term friendship with guys.
Yeah.
Not, taking the military road, because they also see the world kind of the way we do. So anyway, so I got out in 2016. I got divorced. I had no kids.
Yeah.
I was like, and stuff sucked. And then I used my GI Bill to get my dive instructor stuff down here in North Carolina. And I was actually hosting. I was emceeing a benefit down at Texas Tech, which, by the way, that's where Patrick Mahomes went to school. He was there. It was like his sophomore year. This guy named Rusty Witt, who was their strength and conditioning coach, he was a 10th group guy, so he's the one who invited me down to sort of like, MC this thing. And I was on this one little bridge in the middle over the stream, and I was just sitting there, and this kind of little dude with glasses comes up. He starts talking, and he goes, "You're an SF guy?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was too, and he was retired. And he goes, "Well," and I mentioned one of my old team sergeants, and he goes, "I know him very well." So, of course, what did I do, Chris? I took a selfie with me and this new friend, and I texted it to my old team sergeant, and I said, "We both say you suck." And, of course, he writes back. Of course, he goes, "You guys look like shit," blah, blah, blah. And so I told him, I said, well, he said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Well, I just got my dive instructor certification, and I want to form a nonprofit that teaches wounded vets how to dive." And he goes, "Nah, you're going to work for us," because he was one of the task force Dagger directors.
Oh,
and
okay.
Cats teaching diving to, we taught guys who dive who have both legs blown off. We make these fins, we strap them on, they become a different human being. And then, as I was telling you guys before, out of this program of rehabilitation where you're teaching dude how to dive and getting them plugged back into the family, one of the guys went through our program. He was working with East Carolina. He was going to East Carolina for maritime archaeology. And he's like, you got to meet these dudes. And so we ended up forming this remains recovery team, which we've got more missions than we can handle right now. Like, we've been in Saipan for the last few years. We found a Hellcat wreck. Actually, my dive buddy and I were the first two guys to ever see it. And it was not a wreck. It was a debris field, because the poor guy, he got shot down, burned in. But there it all was. Like, picture this, dude. You're dropping down, because we had to drop on all these targets that got picked up by the side scan sonar and the magnetometer. So it could be something, or it could be just a pile of shit. Like, one time over that, and it was a refrigerator. Okay, we still ran around detectors to see if there's anything. But like, as we're dropping down, I tapped my buddy, and I looked at my thing. I pointed, and I go, "There's a 50 caliber on the bottom of the ocean."
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, and then you kind of pull your focus back, and you're like, holy shit, that's a strut sticking out, and there's a piece of tire sticking out that we went up to and rubbed it off, and you could still read Dunlop on it. So we're like, this is an aircraft. So we popped up to the boat. We go, "You guys got to see this." We started excavating that for several years. We found the sole of his boot, a piece of his flight glove, a bunch of stuff on him, like some of his Mae West gear. We did not find any organic material, even though we pulled the seat of the aircraft up. This is the way it goes. And now we're on our way to go to, and that was an easy dive. A bunch of us, though, do rebreathers. We do deep water technical stuff with dragers, the rebreathers that can go down to 300 feet. And then, but we're going on a dive in September to go after, try to recover the remains, if there are any, of a B-24 crew that went down. I want to say 44, and 5 of the cats got out, 6 didn't. So we're hoping that we have a chance to bring some of those guys back home. It's very fulfilling, because we've taken guys who had brain injuries or PTSD, and some of these dudes are now very successful dive professionals. They're dive instructors, and it's become this kind of a machine that's taken on a life of its own. And it's kind of, we don't get paid to do it, but it's like a labor of love. So we dig it.
Yeah. How long was that Hellcat down there? When you
44.
Wow. And it's saltwater, and it's still, that's what's amazing to me, is there's still, it's still there. Pieces are still there intact. It's sitting in there for years.
Some of the stuff is absolutely intact. Especially, it actually gets even more intact if it gets buried by like silt and stuff, because it kind of protects it. And warm salt water it will destroy stuff. Like, I've been diving in like freshwater lakes, where these things underwater look like they just sunk the other day and they've been down there forever because it's so creepy. It's dark, it's cold, and it's an anaerobic environment. And so these ships, you're dropping down, you have this dive light is black, and you're like, you see this creepy thing coming at you, and it looks like an intact ghost ship. It's kind of messes with your head, man. But like the ocean definitely takes things apart. But yeah, a lot of that wreckage was absolutely still there. Yep.
Wow.
That's amazing, man.
Cool.
You know what I wanted to ask you about? I mean, you gave us a little bit of the Cliff's notes version of stuff, but like truthfully, I stopped working with Will Cow at Sirius around, I think, 2016, if I remember correctly. And I haven't really seen all the stuff you've been up to since or what went down, because there was a lot in between there of moving out of New York. And I feel like you were a guy that all of us regularly saw on like Red Eye with Greg Gutfeld, and you were always working on a new project. So what really, I know that you went through a divorce, if you want to get into that, but like what made you say, all right, I'm leaving New York and I am not going to be the guy you see on TV on a million different projects anymore?
Yeah, well, it's different. You don't really need to be in New York anymore or LA to do this kind of stuff. I got out and I went to classical theater school, but like because I went back in the Army and I was deployed a lot, it kind of messed up that normal ability to be able to stay in town and audition, because work begets work in the field. Like if people see you, they're like, oh, call him in, but I'm gone. I'm in Iraq or I'm something else. So, the big hosting. So the first thing I got was Warriors, which was a hosting job. I didn't even think about that. But then that kind of became, again, that worked. And then next thing, these guys from Shark Week are reaching out to me. And then Discovery was like, hey, we want you to do this survival show. And then I worked for Outdoor Channel for this. There was a SWAT competition called Elite Tactical Unit. We did one season. Yeah. And I think what happened was, it was a really good show, actually. It was pretty damn cool what we did. But like right when that was premiering is when that the Newtown school shooting took place. And so the whole thing about guns, there was this whole anti-gun stuff in the country. It was just like, oof, it was rough. And then, but then I ended up working right around when I got divorced is when I came down here is when I got Hollywood Weapons, which we've done 6 seasons. It's with Outdoor Chat. It's really funny. Like Tom Selleck's been a guest, Gary Sinise. It's because where do you get to have a ruggedly handsome yet aging barrel-chested freedom fighter who was a professional actor and could also actually moderately use some of his weapon systems? So a lot of this,
you're a SAG and you're both.
That's right. That's right.
I got you. No, I don't know.
I got you. So look at me. I said, but you're not a SAG. So
no, man, you're the only one I know, man. You're the only one.
So that show is, I don't know if we're good. 6 seasons was good. I mean, but I think Outdoor Channel is having some problems, as a lot of networks are. So I don't know. We've kind of been put on ice. You can see the first 5 seasons on Tubi, that app that people get. But about divorce, I'll share something with you guys. I've shared with some other people. Not too long ago, I kind of came out with it because I thought people might want to hear it. In 2016, it was 2015. 2016 was retired, but by 2015 I was on my way out the door, and I came down here, and dude, I was, I rescue senior dogs, and I had a dog that I had taken from the Salt Lake City shelter. I was teaching the sniper level 2 course out at Camp Williams in Utah.
Yeah.
And I went in, like I had a weekend off, and I went down to their shelter. I said, "You guys got any old ones?" And nobody wants. And like, yeah, that guy. So I looked at him. I was like, all right, I'm taking him. But I told them to hold him. The girl took him home, because I was still at I think a week and a half of training. So I drove him back to New York, and he stayed through me all the divorce and everything. His name was Rooney. He looked like Eeyore the donkey. He never barked. He was like this sad hound dog. But, I was sitting here at this beach house in my bedroom over that way, and it was like around Thanksgiving. I was by myself, cold, raining. And I was just, dude, I had a Glock in my hand. I was like, what do I have to look forward to? Like, and it wasn't, oh, woe is me, I'm in pain. I was just like really dispassionately thinking about what happens to me now, because I just get ready to turn 50. I was divorced. I have no children. I'm not going to be a Green Beret anymore. So my identity is gone. Now I have nothing to look forward to but mental and physical decline. And I was just like, do I really want that? Am I going to die in a VA hospital with tubes up my nose with no kids around to even be there? And I was just like, it was really, I was just sort of thinking very logically about like what I'm willing to accept, or like, is it what's next? And it was funny, man. I was really thinking about going out like a Viking and just like, hey, man, I've kind of had it. I'm tired and I'm just beat up. And I swear to God, dude, this really happened. I looked over at my old dog, Rooney, who looked like Eeyore the donkey. And I looked at him and he was just looking at me with this face. And I go, quote, I go, fuck, someone's got to take care of you. Right. And I just like, I was like, and I put the gun down. I started crying. I hugged the dog. I was like, oh my God, thank God you were here. And then I realized, and then I started, you know, kind of Chris, kind of like you get this. Then I'm laughing while I'm crying. I'm like, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, man, what? Come on, bro. Think about it. You would have destroyed your parents. I have a very close, my dad now, and I take care of my mom, but like, I would have destroyed my family, my parents, and my brother. I would have really crushed all my friends and my compatriots, but I also kind of would be dishonoring the cats that got killed and would do anything for like another day on planet Earth. And here I am throwing it away. So I you know, I still struggle with days where I just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I just like, I don't care. And, you know, I have those kind of days. I have to fight. And, you know, what gets me through that is being physical and putting myself into, pouring myself into projects. But I've talked to dudes who are having a hard time. I said, listen, dude, I'm not going to tell you that life is beautiful and that's all, whatever, man, that doesn't matter. I said, what if you make it about you, you're going to pull the trigger because you're deciding, you know, dispassionately to just get off the ride, basically. And I understand that. And I don't think that's necessarily weakness. You just kind of had enough. Your cup is full. So I tell people, I said, dude, make it about something else. Without sounding hippie-ish, because I'm definitely not, make the world a little bit better for one of your friends or one of your family members. Or in my case, these old dogs or cancer patient dogs that nobody definitely wants. And, you know, I work with Task Force Dagger. You know, I see the benefit of me being involved and helping somebody else. Because if you can help other people to get through, then that is a good purpose. Because we just need guys like us need a fucking purpose, right? Because dude, when you were doing what you were doing, Chris, there was nobody more important on planet Earth than Chris Perron. There was nobody more important than you because to guys around you, that was your life right there. And so having that kind of responsibility and knowing that you're going to give it all unto death if it happens, when you take that away from a dude, that's a very hard thing for them to swallow, especially if someone gets out of the Army, like they get wounded or medically retired, they didn't even get to finish their career, or now they're stepping out to like the corporate world, and no one respects that shit. So I tell dudes, I said, if you make it about you, you'll probably pull the trigger, and that would just be sad because you have a chance to maybe make somebody or something else life a little bit better. And without sounding trite, that's kind of how I try to look at it.
Right, and you're right. I think every one of us has had that time where mine was the year after where I had a Glock in my hand and it was put in my mouth.
Imagine, bro.
And it was, and I was divorced. I was alone, but I had kids and we did reconcile after. But that's what I remembered. I remember my kid. Man, what am I doing? I've done all this shit. I've gone through all this, and now I'm going to end it. I'm going to be weak now after all this shit I've been through. And then I was like, gun down, called my ex-wife, I said we reconciled. She's actually upstairs now, and my kids. And
God, dude, that's fucking beautiful though, bro. That's you can't ask. I mean, imagine if you had actually followed through with that, the destruction you would, because if you kill yourself, I'm happy for you because the pain's over, right? Over. And I do believe even if you kill yourself and you've been a good person, you are going to join the Lord. You might have to go through some purgatory, but you're going to
you have to go through a vetting process, definitely.
They're going to ask you some questions. They're going to be like, hey, dude, I gave you all this and you shat it away. But like by not, but I mean, you find a way then. So that I'm so glad you didn't do that. And, you know, the thing is too, especially with what you guys went through, like to just see your government just fucking betray you. Like, and, you know, I think I speak for my community too, because if you guys follow me on Twitter, we have a really good group of dudes that are like all combat guys, and a lot of civilians that are they're great people. And I think everybody believes everybody's kind of like sort of helping each other out and you know, sort of like pulling for each other and sort of trying to do that kind of thing. Because I just that's what you need. You need some kind of a community, I think. And In my case, it's, the dive community with Dagger. It's with, the dogs and stuff like that. But like you guys were, to watch what happened to you guys and, kind of sort of dovetails right in what's going on today as far as our government.
Yeah.
I mean, they never gave a fuck about you guys. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, nobody went down that was important for what happened there, right? Like no one in any real leadership position probably paid you for what happened.
Hell no. No.
And no one went down for all those years of the GWAT where we were fucking lied to. And a lot of the guys now, I don't regret a minute doing it. I mean, we all lost pieces of our life, or we've lost, now we're old and beat up, but like, and we've lost friends and we lost a good I mean, I came back in after 9/11 and I stayed in for another 16 years. And it's like, I don't regret that because the love I had from those kind of dudes was irreplaceable. But it's an interesting time now because I think guys like us, we probably bought a lot of what they said initially because, like, hey, man, we're the good guy, right? And then you find out, we're trying to send up information to hire in Iraq and be like, this isn't working. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Like a bunch of people got rich during the GWAT and it wasn't me and Pronto. It wasn't. And a lot of good people were just thrown away. And there was I have a big problem with officers. So like a lot of these careerist officers are just, I have a real disdain for those dudes because they know what they're doing is destructive to the regiment and they're doing it anyway to protect their career. And it's
always. Yep.
Always protect. There's not a general in the world who will actually fall on his sword for a private.
Well, General Ham could have for us that evening, and he did. Even though I've heard all the stories. He was pissed. He was so angry. Well, good. He's throwing shit around the skiff while he's watching us get decimated. While he's watching us get attacked after attack. What he should have done is say, "Hey, Obama, Hillary, fuck you. All right, get out of there, guys. Send D-boys. Go.
Launch.
Sif, get out of there. You're ready to go. Sif, you're already pre-positioned. Go."
Yeah, the SIF was there. The SIF was there. That was my old guy.
Right there. They were right there. Yep.
They were not that far away because we're used to that. And yet they didn't launch that. And so, and now we see what's going on with, the Secret Service. The Secret Service, I just saw this the other day. The Secret Service is telling the Trump campaign, hey, listen, don't hold any big rallies because we can't protect you. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like,
yeah, I saw that. And you know what? Getting into that, Terry, I actually would like to read because I printed this out purposely. I thought that the tweet that you made about this was great. Then we could kind of get into it from there. Because what you said, I think it was profound for a lot of people. So of course, follow at Terry Schappert on X. But you wrote, "It sucks when you realize a firefighter was killed at a political rally because his beliefs were antithetical to a huge swath of America. Corey Comparator, hopefully I'm not butchering his name, wouldn't have asked what your politics were before pulling you out of a burning building. He just would have done it." And yeah, I thought that was very true, man. And that was the whole warrior ethos. And yeah, I'd love to get, because I spoke to Chris right after it happened. I think our initial reaction ended up being very different than what we learned in the coming days.
Definitely.
What I saw, I was just purely shocked because it was almost comparable to when we saw the assassination of Shinzo Abe in Japan just a couple of years ago. And when that happened, Japan, for whatever people's politics are, is not a country that sees gun crime of any kind for the most part. So the fact that it happened there was just absolutely shocking. And I think some people were like, well, that'll never happen in America. And we saw it come as close as it possibly could to happening just the other week.
Dude, if the media, if politicians, i.e. leaders, elected leaders, academia, entertainment, if you call a person a Nazi for like 8 or 10 years and you tell everybody this person is a threat to your life, he needs to be removed. If we don't stop him, you're going to lose da 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 da. And you do that over and over. And no one in the media said, "Oh, guys, relax. I get you don't like Trump, but calling him a Nazi is just not only just factually incorrect. It's you're just trying to stoke these fires. It turns out that if you call someone that for 10 years and tell everybody he's a threat to your way of life, someone's going to look at that and go, I am going to change the world. I have got to fix this. Maybe someone who doesn't feel like they've accomplished much, or they're easily persuaded, so you see it's almost the same kind of person that does this shit every time. Right. And then, so of course it happens, and, and then everyone's like, oh my God. And then of course the Congress that was finally the Secret Service gal in front of them was like, all these Democrat congressmen made it about gun control. Shut the fuck up.
January 6th and gun. I couldn't still January 6th and gun control. I was like, how the fuck are you? Why are we pulling? We're pulling January. Really, that's what we're doing.
It's a script, Chris. It's a script, Chris. It's a script. It's a script, and
can I ask you something though? Because one question I have, and maybe you see this completely differently than me. When you talked about the politics, I mean, because I want to get into how incompetent the Secret Service was that day, but in terms of the actual politics of the shooter, I personally don't even know if that weighed in. And the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting was they saw the Google searches of the shooter. He was also searching Biden that same day. And I feel like if you look at the psychology of a lot of these school shooters or people who assassinate leaders, as you kind of hinted at, they're losers. They have nothing to live for, and they want to become immortalized by doing something, whether it's shooting up a school, shooting a president or a former president. And in my mind, because there was so much talk of, oh, was he a registered Republican? Was he a Democrat? I think it's very possible that there was no political motive, and that this was just someone looking to become immortalized by doing something crazy, whether it was assassinating Biden or Trump or Harris. I don't know if he necessarily gave a shit about Trump. I think it was possibly more just so I want to do an act that will put my name and my picture in headlines for years to come, which it has, and always happens every time someone does this. And then we see copycat shooters. Yeah,
you're right. The politics. Someone was saying, as soon as first of all, if you wanted to instill a lack of confidence, a large amount of mistrust and disdain from the population, the government could not have handled it better than because they think about it. They have been so sketchy about how they've talked about it. Like, as soon as this happened, they scrubbed his internet presence, gone. No one can find anything. And then someone said he's a registered Republican. Well, so is Rick Wilson, who called for his death a year ago. So I think the politics are less important. You know what his politics are? His politics were on that day he decided to kill Donald Trump. So that's his politics, right? And that's all that really matters. And the fact that he was able to get that close. And, it was funny, Chris, I actually on Will Cow's show maybe a week ago. He asked me, hey, you want to talk about this? I said, well, I'll talk about what I think, but I can't talk about what I know because we don't really know a lot. And I don't like to armchair quarterback shit that happens on the ground. I would never for a second look at what you guys did and go, oh, that was bullshit. What? No, dude, you do the best you can. And the people who don't do that are the ones who talk crap. So I didn't want to really make any, because I don't know all the facts, and I certainly wasn't on the ground, but I would, I said, yeah, I'll talk about it. I mean, I talked a little bit about maybe the challenges of being a sniper in that situation, but also about, just the idea that, look, because we've all done it. When people come and they bring dignitaries over to downrange, they have like PSD, they have their bodyguard types, but they'll talk to the A team that's there or whatever unit and go, hey, we need your help. And you'll do surveys and you'll figure out, okay, this is a problem. You knew the 150-yard building, the line of sight from back. I said on his show, I said, there's no way that was not identified as a problem. I think what happened was, because the Secret Service has to fold in with state and local people, I bet, Chris, it was like they probably had some kind of a tasking order, like op order type stuff. And okay, you guys have this is yours. And then on the day of the operation, this is what I thought. Now we know a little more now, but I was like, on the day of the operation, I bet someone was like, well, no, that's not our place. We don't have that. We got this. And so that 150-yard roof they blew the coverage because it was just like, well, that wasn't my task. Well, it wasn't mine. But then you find out later on that there were actually dudes in the building that didn't want to get on top now, apparently. So they actually covered it, but they didn't cover it. And we're going to find out so more. But the point is kind of like what you guys were saying. And I'm not going to slam the Secret Service people that were with Trump because, again, that's their worst day, right? Your principal is getting attacked, and that's like your nightmare. But I think you have to be able to be honest and say, look, that group that was around him, especially the gals, they were pretty twitchy. I mean, like they were really twitchy, and they couldn't holster their guns. They were like adjusting their sunglasses, and they kept looking around. All I said when I saw that was, I'm not going to make personal things about their fitness or anything like that. I would just say those people clearly have not drilled together or trained together in any significant way, because you could tell there was no, because when you do that kind of job, it's not for everybody. There's SF guys who would probably be crappy on the Secret Service, and there's guys who would be great because it's a very specific kind of gig. And when I watched the way they handled all that, my first thought was the training isn't there, because they clearly, you don't get good at that shit. And, Chris will tell you, man, when you get to a team or you get out of basic and you get to jump school and then you get to Ranger Regiment, you don't know anything and you suck for like the first couple years. And then you become one of the wheels in the machine that actually gets shit done. I don't think I hit my stride on a team until like 2 years being on the SIF and going to Sephardic and then doing all this stuff. Yeah. So when I watch it, I go, there's a lack of training and sort of like drilling with each other. And that sucks. And then obviously, the fact that the dude got a shot off, it seemed like he might've got rushed because people were on the ground going, there's a dude with a gun.
Yeah.
And so I think what might've happened was he was on the roof realizing, oh, they know I'm here. So maybe he had to hurry that shot. We could tell you that 150-yard shot with glass, with a scope, even with a 2.23 bullet, is not particularly hard.
No.
But under combat conditions, it certainly could be. Your breath is going. He's rushed. If you have all day to get a good position, you can just be like, boom, got it. But if you're up there and you're like scrambling and trying to get a sight picture on him, and people are yelling and cops are coming, maybe that's what saved him. But also the fact that Trump turned at the last second, just kind of a bit of an act of God, honestly. Just lucky the guy turned, and so he missed. But the fact that then the Secret Service and the FBI, they just buttoned up, they turtled up. We're not talking about it, and they're doing an internal investigation. And here's the funny thing, Chris, I know you think this way. The idea now that these guys are doing the investigation, this is how bad the federal government has destroyed its credibility, because the FBI, no one trusts them. The CIA, nobody trusts them. Department of Justice, nobody trusts them. The guys like us who are brought to respect law and they're the good guys, they lost us, right? Because I don't believe in them anymore. And so the IRS, which is, they suck anyway, but when they went after conservatives, okay, and then no one got in trouble for that. The CDC, your own local church who caved into the COVID bullshit and refused to have mass. All these institutions have lost credibility, but I think up until the other day when they tried to kill him, I think most people thought the Secret Service was pretty good at what they do. I mean, dispassionately protecting the president regardless of politics. That veneer, that sort of perception, I think that's gone now, because now we just watched. They can spin it all they want. We watched it on real time, and we watched it happen, and it was like, whoa, that's really bad. And so instead of saying, hey, we got to fix this, it becomes that then the one Bongino comes out, because he's got people in there. He's like, hey, dude, they were asking for extra security and they got turned down. Then a Secret Service spokesman says, categorically untrue, not true at all. We actually buttressed up the security. And then you find out a week later, oh, we just discovered that, yes, there were more requests. And then they're also saying, well, there was a threat from Iran. So if there was really a threat from Iran, why wasn't the security ironclad? Why would you, everything they say contradicts their logic, and yet we're just supposed to go, yeah, cool, we get it, no problem. That's the thing. There's such a lack of trust right now in these heretofore respected institutions, and I don't know how you get that back other than kind of almost gutting them and rebuilding them.
Well, heads have to roll, bud. Accountability.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this interview with a guy I go way back with, Terry Schappert. You've seen him on TV, and it was great to sit down with him for this long form interview. We have a new sponsor on board, and actually, if any of you guys are in the market for a USA made knife, This is
man.
amazing from Benchmade. Whether you're gearing up for a dusty trek through rugged terrain or simply preparing for your next adventure, staying ready for any challenge is essential. That's where the new 945 BK03 Mini Osborne comes in. As I've said, so many knives that you get, even good knives, are often made in China.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
USA made knife, and this is the type of thing. I mean, I've looked at it. This is a badass knife. This is the type of thing that's going to last you your whole life. You may even give it to your kids, your grandkids.
Yeah.
Like, this is a high quality product. So this compact powerhouse is built for those who thrive on grit and adventure, featuring a wear and corrosion resistant CPM Magna Cut reverse Tonto blade, not to be confused with Chris Tonto Pronto,
But
but a
that's what
Tonto
I carry,
blade.
man. The Tonto blade. That's what I carry, man. Yep.
With a very cool, yeah, with a stunning DLC battle wash finish. It's as tough as you are. The burnt copper, anodized 6061 T6 aluminum handle scales, accented with mean black oxide hardware, make this knife not only functional but also a standout piece of gear. Lightweight and versatile, the 945 BK03 Mini Osborne is perfect for your pocket, your truck, your camper, or your day pack. It's your reliable companion, ready to take you on any challenge that comes your way. Visit benchmade.com to get yours. That's benchmade.com. Check it out, guys. The link right there is in the description. And as always, every show is brought to you by our great friends at Fort Scott Munitions. And you know what? I will say I have my Fort Scott Munitions tin right here. And look, I try not to tell anybody where their politics should stand, although Terry certainly gets political this episode. If you happen to be a Trump supporter, you may have seen that they have the new tins, the Trump tins that are limited edition at FSM.com. So I'm sure many of you guys want to pick that up, which I think is pretty cool. But they have all different types of tins. Every now and again, they have the Battle Line Tactical tins. I don't know
We'll
if
have the Battle Line
that's...
Tactical tins. We do them once a year. We'll get another one done, but they're always doing tins, and they do an excellent job on those tins. They're super cool. I mean, really, they're not just even as a mantelpiece. If you never use it, you keep those ammo there. It looks
I
good.
mean, technically, I don't even have the gun to shoot these, so I'm a total poser. I only own a shotgun. I'm on Long Island, so and I don't have a handgun permit. Sorry, guys.
Right. I mean, that's just their creativity, and
Yeah.
it's great marketing, and it is. And the tins look good. They look good, and again, if you do shoot the ammo, well, the ammo speaks for itself. It's the best in the country by far.
Yeah, the ammo is TUI, which you've heard me talk about so many times if you've listened to the podcast. Tumbles upon impact. This is really like the most this is the best bullet you're going to get out there for home defense. But then you also have the range ammo, which is not as lethal, and it's less expensive, but it's great range ammo.
It'll still knock you down. I mean, it's a bullet. It's not the high premium price you're going to pay for that TUI ammo because it's range ammo. We don't need to pay that high price to punch paper. We need to get something that's affordable that we can train with, that still has the same capabilities, same reliability as the TUI, which the range ammo does. So it's excellent range ammo.
Yeah, check it out, guys. Go to FSM.com, use the promo code BattleLine, and you'll get 15% off, whether that's the new Trump tins that I spoke about or any of the range ammo that's available on the site. FSM.com, promo code BattleLine for 15% off. And with that, let's get right back to Terry Schappert.
I've said on the show before, and I honestly believe this. During our hearings, the third hearing I did was my last one with Trey Gowdy. I remember after we got done in the little DC in the Capitol, we're down in the basement side, Pee Wee Herman, the Alamo, basement of the Alamo. We're down in the basement of the Capitol, and I said, sir, I said, you've been good to me. You've done everything you could. His report was done. We were going through it. And I said, but you've got to make an example of somebody. Somebody has to go to prison. I said, it doesn't have to be Hillary. It can be Patrick Kennedy. It can be Charlene Lamb. It can be Jake Sullivan.
Lamb, I remember. Sullivan.
I said it can be but somebody has to go to prison, because if you don't, then they're going to be emboldened and they're going to get away with everything, and they're going to lie about everything that goes on because they can get away with it.
And what year was that? What year was that, Chris? Was that like 2011?
That was actually 20.
I was thinking the actual Benghazi. Sorry.
No, the hearing when I talked to him was 2014, 2015.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that was Yeah, right.
It was when his report was complete. So maybe it was 2015, I think it was. But I still, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back because I'm not that smart of a person. But it's if a simpleton like me can see that and be like, sir, you have to do this. And I tell it to his face, and I don't care who I'm talking to. I'm going to tell you, this is what I think, sir. I don't care if you're a congressman. This is what you have to do. It didn't happen. His report was great, but he didn't have any teeth to follow up on it. Well, look where we're at now. And everything that you said, spot on.
Yeah, so it meant nothing, really. At the end of the day, it was a lot of money spent investigating and compiling a report, and nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
Story about accountability. Like, dude, I know this happened to you in Ranger Regiment. I was in a scout platoon in the 82nd, and we were on this objective, and we got busted. We got caught by the Op 4. It was a training thing. I forget. I think it might have been. We got caught, and it was our fault. I wasn't the squad leader, but we had a great squad who, by the way, ended up going to CAG. Actually, he's a great dude.
Wow.
But we got caught, and what did our platoon sergeant do? Okay. He goes, and we got caught because it had been raining for days, and we had a couple things on the ground drying. It was freezing. We were wet. And maybe that's what they saw. I don't remember, but we got caught. We got compromised. For the next week, we had to be in the quad, in the barracks, on the grass, camoed up in a patrol base on our bellies. So everybody walked by and saw these guys. It was like the scarlet letter. And it was so demeaning. And it was so oh my God, you could see guys smirking yeah, look at these fuckers. But you know what? We paid for it. And guess what? If you pay for it, if you put your hand on the hot stove, you pretty much look. Pain is a great indicator. Pain is the greatest teacher, I think. And no one in government has really had any pain delivered to them for their mistakes. No. It just, dude, classic example. Here you are. We know all that shit went wrong. They finally looked into it. Big deal, guys. Have a nice day. Go home. It's just there's only so much demoralization you can do before people they've had it. They just don't buy it anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you on the Secret Service thing. I mean, when Ian and I did that we didn't really know much. I think I was driving home, saw a little bit. I saw the button up was pretty good, but I said everything else out of that, their surveys, their advance. If it's within a 300-meter concentric security circle and they got that shot off, they fail. I said, we don't know.
By the way, it's it's hard not, and I don't get conspiratorial about everything, but it's hard not to get conspiratorial with this.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's just how is it possibly this incompetent? And then, at least for me, man, my brain goes to if this was President Biden, I don't think that guy would have gotten in. I just don't.
Well, the thing is, too, it's funny. I think I almost think at this point now, here's a conspiracy within a conspiracy theory, is that I think they know that when they're weird and they're sketchy and they don't put out information, they know that there's going to be people looking into it going, wait a minute, there's something you're not telling us. So then when you say that, they go, ha ha, weirdo conspiracy theorists. Or if you act on it, then they can come after you and go, look at you, you're a problem. And so it's the constant demoralization of the public. And in this case, they're having a harder time because we watched it on real time on television. I was at the gym. I actually take care of my elderly mom. I just got back from training. I walked in. She goes, "You're not gonna believe what happened." And I sat down. It already happened, but I was like, "Holy crap, man! They really dropped the ball." And so, like I said, if you want to instill distrust and suspicion and conspiracy theories, they couldn't go about it a better way than the way they're doing it right now. And they've been doing it so long. It's almost like they almost want you to act like that because you know what they're going to say to you. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? We pay their salaries, yet they don't think for 1 minute that they work for us because you know what? As to Chris's point, they've never suffered for being incompetent or negligent or even malicious. No, there's no effect.
Yeah.
There's no effect.
Yeah. No nefarious and criminal. Criminal a lot of aspects. I mean, you look at subpoenas not being honored. You look at when things are subpoenaed and Congress requests information to do investigations, it's destroyed with sledgehammers and bleach. I mean, those things that if we did that, federal prison for freaking.
We're going to prison. You and I are going to prison, bro. You and I are going to prison. That's it. And they actually get promoted. They actually fail upwards, which is just it's so demoralizing. And I think at this point, the demoralization is the goal. It's the goal, because at some point everyone's just like, I can't do anything about. I mean, literally, they own us, and it's very disappointing, because I think, it's interesting. I think, the left is all about having big government because they can enforce what they want, but the left would not want big government if big government was against them. So all these anti-gun people who are like, we got to take guns out of the hands of these citizens. The only reason they think they say that is because they believe that the government is always going to have their side, but they've never actually thought about, what if the government doesn't have their side? Would you be telling citizens to turn in an AR-15? You probably, well, if you would, get suicidal. So it's like, I think everybody needs to mistrust the government. I mean, look, I respect them, and we know good guys in these units, we do. But the leadership has been so rotten for so long that has percolated down to the person on the ground. So it's like, when I remember back, it was like 4 years ago, I don't know, it was like at the height of COVID. I was on Gutfeld's show, but we couldn't even go into studio. So I was at the studio in Raleigh looking at this little freaking camera lens, and they had a laptop underneath it, but it wasn't in sync. So I was like, I just turned that off, and I just looked at this lens, just only hear them. But I actually said, hey, I want to say something about this, and I hope someone's listening. Does the FBI and the department, do you guys realize that the people that you always had as your allies that actually believed in law and order and thought you were the good guys, we don't believe that anymore. We just don't believe that. Keep hearing over and over again, the guys on the ground are good. At this point, I'm not even believing that anymore. I said, so if someone's out there listening to this, maybe you should do something to get the reputation of your organization out of the toilet, because that's where it is right now. And it's going to be there if you continue to act this way and be the instrument of these people that clearly hate us. They hate us. They freaking hate us. And they have government leverage on their side. And it's not conspiracy theory to say that, because you just look around and that's what's happening right in front of you.
Yeah. You know what I wanted to ask you about? I mean, this is switching gears completely, but you were saying that you said that on Gutfeld, and a lot of the audience probably knows you from Red Eye for all those years. I never got a chance to really hang out with Greg Gutfeld at any point, maybe one day. But it's funny, man. I often say to Chris, I know Chris feels the same way, I really don't watch the news. I don't really turn on MSNBC or CNN or Fox. However, the one guy who I do turn on, because he just has such a way of putting a spin on what's going on with, like, informing you, but also making it funny, is Gutfeld. I think Greg Gutfeld does such a great job, man. So yeah, well, like, I'd love to hear about your friendship with him over the years. Yeah,
it's funny. I haven't talked to him in like a year. Shame on me, because I haven't. I don't live in New York. So what they would do in the last few years, I basically they fly me up to New York. I get a hotel. I tape. And then I'm rolling right back out the door.
I feel like if you were still in the metro area, you would be a regular on there, because you were a great co-host of that show.
Yeah, thank you. But Greg and I met Greg when I did Discovery. When I did Shark Week for Discovery, Discovery put me on Red Eye to promote Shark Week. And it was funny because I knew Red Eye because, I used to joke around with Greg. I said, dude, no one's watching you except people with insomnia. Either the only people watching us right now are insomniacs, people who have weird job schedules, or cocaine addicts, because no one's watching you at 3 a.m. But like, it was funny because like I was a guest for Shark Week, and Greg and he came up to me afterwards. He goes, dude, you were great, man. Do you live around here? I go, yeah, dude, I'm in New York. He goes, I'm going to have you back on. So next time I came back on Red Eye, this is the kind of shit we used to get away with on Red Eye. Like we're sitting around the table. He goes, hey, welcome back, Terry Schappert. I said, stop, Greg. I go, the only reason I came back on this show is because you promised me a 3-way with you and Bill Schultz. I said that on Fox News, and we all died laughing. And like the shit we used to get away with on Red Eye. I remember one time, what was fun about Red Eye, it was kind of this little secret weird club where like they had a couple of internet fan sites. Every time I was on it, Terry Schappert's on it, they'd create all this stuff. And the other good thing about Red Eye is you tape it. We taped it like 9 o'clock at night, because it was on at 3 a.m. And then it'd be an excuse to go across the street to this Irish place called Langan's and just drink. Yeah. You're getting drunk, and you're getting drunk with Ann Coulter and like rock stars or writers. And it was just a really fun thing. And I remember one time it was just me and Greg were sitting down. This is right before he got the Gutfeld show. And I said to him, I said, dude, I think it's funny, Greg. I said, I don't think Fox knows what to fucking do with you. Like, I don't think they know what they have with you yet, but when they do, I said, I really think your star is going to rise. And he goes, you think so? I said, yeah. So that's why I joked. Last time I was on there, I looked around. I was just like, love what you've done with the place. By the way, you're welcome for me getting you here.
It's so crazy too, because it's like, if people haven't seen, Gutfeld like devours all the late night shows in the ratings. Like he's beating Colbert and he's beating Fallon. And part of it is, I don't even think it has to do with the politics in America. Is just Greg is an undeniably funny guy, and also just has a way of, like, no matter what the news story is, bringing humor to it, but also making a point that'll make you think.
Yeah, and he's a like I said, I haven't talked to him in a long time, and it's about time. I probably got to reach out to his producer and get my butt up there. But like, he's a good friend of mine. He's in my phone, dude. On the month before the election of Donald Trump, I was on his show, and we were getting ready to finish up, and he goes, any predictions for the election? I said, Trump's going to win. And no shit, he looked at me like I had a dick growing out of my forehead. And so fast forward to the election. It was election night. This is before Dad started getting bad, and his health was kind. Dad had gone to bed. I was watching the election returns with mom, and I was flipping through CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, and I was just watching the meltdowns. And then I think Trump took Florida. I looked at my mom and I said, "quote He's gonna fucking do it." So I texted Greg. I texted Greg. I said, "I told you." Period. Send. 5 seconds later, he writes me back. He goes, "You're coming on this Friday." So like. He booked a ticket. I got up there and he starts talking. And maybe it was even Thursday. It was like the day after the election. I went up there and he was like, he does his monologue. And he goes, "Hey, Terry, go ahead and gloat." And I said, "I'm not going to gloat too much." I said, "But because I'm an idiot, I'm a knucklehead." I said, "But what I do have, Greg, and what you don't have, I have the luxury of not living in a New York media bubble. Like I'm not around these news organizations. I live in North Carolina. I train jujitsu with cops and firefighters. I'm out in California filming and Arizona filming my show, but I'm in California in Ventura County, which is all horses and guns. And I saw Trump signs everywhere, not a Hillary sign to be had." And I said, and I really think because I'm not plugged into the news, I really felt there was a vibe in the country at that time where it was like, we did not want to be told that Hillary's your president, accept the coronation. So Trump, to me, as I said this on his show, I said Trump was like the flashbang candidate. He's just like, throw the bang in and just watch he's the chaos. Trump, the election of Trump was as much a refutation of Washington as it was an endorsement of him, because no one knew what he was going to be like. And so that's what I said. I said, I just know, like people, there was still back then, I think it's even less now because people have just been, much of America are domesticated animals right now.
Yeah,
but I think, right? I mean, people, right? But back then there was still a bit of that sort of cowboy vibe of like, fuck you. I'm not doing what you tell me. I'm not going to accept her just because you're telling me it's her time. It's nobody's time. But I think the problem we have now is, and the people who are like saying, oh, we need to bring Reagan back. Okay, first of all, Reagan left in 88. That was 30 years ago. Wait, 88, 98. More than that. 36 years ago was when he left. And
I was born in 86, so.
Yeah, he left in 88. That's 35, 36 years of essentially unabated drift towards the left in the country, right? So in those 36 years, we've had the universities cranking out these people. We've had the media taking over and being completely in bed with the left. So you can't have Reagan because we don't have the same country we had when he was elected in 1980. We have a different population right now. They believe different things. They've been indoctrinated into different things. We need someone a lot more with a bigger battle axe, because they're just, these people are, you see it on Twitter. You can show somebody a fact and they're like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Trump is bad. Am I right, dude? I'm right.
I just thought, because I follow my Ranger buddy Dave Park. I love his stuff on Twitter. Right, I'll have he's a Ranger sniper. He'll have these 40-year-old Karens tell him about sniping that they know more than he does, that an actual Ranger. And
I saw his little thing back and forth with that.
Oh man, it cracks me the fuck up. I'm like, are you? But they do. They seriously do. And then when they don't, Dave is, again, he's an anomaly, a very smart Ranger. There's not a lot of smart Rangers. He's one of them. But again, he just kills them. He crushes them, and they'll block him. But I just look at it going, how can you argue? You're arguing with the guy that actually does the job, because you stayed at a Holiday Inn Club or Holiday Inn Express last night? I mean, what's the mentality here? But you're exactly right. That's exactly how it is.
And does anybody think at this time that calling out Kamala Harris's failure on the border, the fact that she went to Ukraine and kind of threatened Putin with sanctions and he invaded Ukraine the next day, the fact that she's never do you really think the people who voted for and supported Joe Biden care that Kamala Harris is a fraud? No. So like, I think what the Republicans need to do is stop. Don't even insult her anymore. Just what you need to do is shut the fuck up, shore up the election, make sure that is an honest election. That's where you should pour all your effort into, and then just let them cook, because let them do. I mean, because you cannot convince people. I have people in my family that are like that. They're just like, I look at them. Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know how to talk to you, because one of the most freeing things that ever happened to me, and probably to Chris at some point, was the realization that even the politicians that say they're on your side, nah, not really, man. And Washington itself has become this beast that seeks to feed itself and propagate itself and will not relinquish power willingly. None of them will. And this is kind of like one of those, you just have to understand that that's what we're dealing with. So I think what the Republicans need to do is, Trump needs to try not to say too much dumb stuff. He can't help it. I don't care. But I mean, like, don't even go after her personally. You could go ahead and highlight her failure on the border. But do you think the people who supported Biden and actually listened to Jake Tapper a few weeks ago say that he's sharp as a tack, and they nodded their head, and now they've replaced him with Kamala? Do you think that because you point out that she's, kind of a fraud and far left, do you think they're going to vote for her? So don't even worry about trying to convince them, because you're not going to convince them. Make sure, be careful what you say. Talk amongst yourself. I like saying mock them from a distance. Like, I don't engage even with crazy lefties on Twitter. I either mute them or block them, and I have fun with my friends insulting each other and showing dog pictures. But and then also shore up the election. Make sure that you pour the money into making sure that this is not sketchy, because I don't think there's any way Trump doesn't win if it's not sketchy. And then let them say what they're going to say, because they're going to believe what they're going to believe. Do not try to pander to people or have people see the light that are clearly not going to see the light. They're not going to.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something completely off of politics and back into the military stuff. But one interesting thing about your career, I would say, is we've had plenty of Green Berets, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, MARSOC, all on the podcast. You are probably the only guy I think we've had on that went from National Guard to Special Forces, which I think is kind of interesting. I
was active duty, so I was an active duty infantry guy, then an active duty Special Forces Green Beret guy. Then I had a 4.5-year break in service, and then I came back into the National Guard Special Forces. So all I had to do was
think it'd be interesting to get into, though, because there are people who are wondering all about, like, there's just always people we have on with interesting backgrounds, like Todd Apowski, who went from being a Marine to being in Delta Force. You have a pretty interesting background in terms of that.
Well, it was definitely weird getting out of the SIF, looking like a damn Unisol, jacked, tattooed, and then sitting in a Broadway theater with a bunch of trust fund kids going through a classical theater education. That was a vibe shift for sure. And I think, it's definitely, but the National Guard was funny, because the National Guard SF was better than, when I went through the Q course back in the early 90s, we mocked the National Guard guys, because we're basically it was just a skydiving club. They were going to go on some J sets where they go train some farmer. They were never going to get into a fight. But once the war started, National Guard has thrown in there a lot. And we actually did some pretty good things. And, what determines the National Guard unit is really the local commander. You have a good company commander and sergeant major. It was a great place and we had all sorts of weirdos. I mean, I was the only, D-list cable celebrity actor on the A team, but there was, we had guys that came over from the Marines. We had guys who were literally MBAs that were running corporations, that here they are. They're like a Bravo. They're an 18 Bravo on a team. And we had cops and firefighters. And so we rolled one time, 05 to 06, we went with 5th Group, And I remember the commander, our commander at the time, Major Overdeer, great guy. He was like, "You guys are great. I mean, because you guys have brought so, because by then fifth group was getting tired, man. They were just getting,
Sure.
I mean, they were the first. I mean, by 2005, man, that's all they did. So like, we were these young, hungry, like, let's get us into the fight, and we were like all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we had all these weird skill sets. So we like, some of our guys were like, major state police people. So we were helping us stand up an Iraqi police force, which was that's a challenge. And then, but like we had a guy who was a lineman for Connecticut, so he was an electric guy. So like, dude, these are these kind of crazy, weird skills that people. And of course, I was the obligatory actor, so of course I set up skits and stuff like that. I didn't have to do anything. But it was definitely, I think it actually helped me in many ways. I mean, because I also, I think one of my strengths was I'm not a computer guy. I'm not, there's better shooters, there's better everybody than me, but I was a good communicator. And I think, like I said, when I took over a team, I realized that, we had some leadership problems in the company at the time. And I just was like, I always stood up for the team and I protected my guys. I had some guys that were like awesome gunfighters, but you get them down in garrison and they're going to step in it. So I was just like, I always told guys, I said, do me a favor, man. Just don't lie to me. Don't lie to me, because trust me, you got nothing. You're not gonna lie about anything that I probably haven't done. But I said, you have to tell me if you step on your dick, you have to tell me, because then I can protect you. I can have ammo. If you get a call at 2 a.m. from a commander about something you did, I will do everything I can to protect you, but I won't have as much ammo as if you tell me. And so, that I think that's, you got to protect your guys and find them for the right leadership, for like, hey man, you're the guy for this. And even some guys that didn't want to do it, I was like, no, you're going to run this because you're, and it would be like, they'd be like, yeah, Terry, that was a good idea. You have to take people out of their comfort zone and go, hey man, I want you to run this. And they're going to be like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude, you're not going to fail. I got you. You're a Green Beret. Yeah, you can do it. I miss it. I miss it every day. Like, I really miss that love. It really is brotherhood. I mean, I'm tighter with those guys than I am with, members of my own family because of the experiences we had together. And, I still keep in contact with a lot of them. I got some different gigs with some of these cats that one of them I've known since the 90s. He was in the SIF with me. He's one of my best friends. And so it's like, yeah, funny thing. So here's a funny story. So I'm living at the beach, right? And I was a theater guy. So here they have a really good theater here in Dare County called Theater of Dare. It's like a community theater. And on a lark, I hadn't been any theater since probably like 2008 or something like that, when I was still, in the city, still going into the city and doing. I had a couple cool shows that I was doing, but anyways, I hadn't been on stage forever. I've been doing all this, silly TV hosting bullshit. And I auditioned for a play here at Theater of Dare, and I got the lead. Like, it was just like, and it was this show called The Man Who Came to Dinner. It was a Broadway play in 1939. It's a comedy.
Oh, wow.
And it was, they made a movie of it in I think 1942, like Betty Davis. But I played the lead role. I basically was in and the character is in this wheelchair, but he just finds out later he's really not wounded. But it's like, it's a funny story, and it was just great because next thing I know, we're getting ready to opening night, and I'm sitting there in the wheelchair, got all my shit, and the music's playing, and these people start talking because I'm about to get wheeled in and just start being the asshole. And I just looked up, I go, God, I really picked a project to step back into theater instead of a bit part. I'm like, I have to carry the show. I can't F up. And when I got the job, I told them, yeah, listen, a couple things. I work down at Robin Sage. I work out at the Special Forces course, and I got to go. And I also have this Vegas gig for like 4 days where I'm teaching, like ASO type stuff and surveillance detection of these executives. But I said, I promise you this, when I get back, I will be off book. And they're like, dude, off book, meaning I know the script. And the whole script was me. I was talking like nonstop. And so even when I was down at the Q course, working with the guys, I'd be on a fire break in my truck waiting to do some kind of cool clandestine. And I have my script and I'm writing it, saying it, reading it, memorizing this shit for a couple weeks. Then I was in Vegas. If I wasn't teaching, I was in the back of the class. When I stepped back out, I knew the book. And so it felt good to kind of plug back into theater and do that stuff. And yeah, what a weirdo. I'm a theater actor and a special forces guy. That's not right.
You're MWR, dude. That's just
Another funny story. So while I was in Stuttgart with the SIF, we'd be on like kind of like our cycles would be like, you have to stay in town because we may go. You're on a beeper. And then the rest of you, maybe you're doing J sets. We get to do cool shit. Like I got to train with like, Norwegians and Danish guys.
That's
and
cool.
slow. Yeah, the J sets are a lot of, especially in Europe, because like all the girls are pretty. So then there was a American German theater in Stuttgart that did all these cool shows. And I ended up being, dude, I'll never forget this. There's a musical called Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And it's one of the big is Pharaoh, who's like he's the Pharaoh is an Elvis impersonator. He has to sing like Elvis. And dude, I auditioned. I got that part. And so I was fat, and I'm a terrible singer. Like by myself, Terry Schappert is embarrassed of his voice. But on stage, being a Pharaoh who's an Elvis impersonator, I just let it rip. And I had the costume. Dude, I'll find a picture somewhere. I got to send this to you guys.
Send it. We'll put it on screen. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to give it to you. But it's funny because I remember singing this song while I was wandering along, and I looked down the front row, and like my team sergeant and all these dudes were looking up, and this is their face. They were looking at me going like this. They were dying laughing. Dude, I never caught so much shit, but I got all this love from them. And like, bro, he had no idea. Like, that's what I do. I perform.
It's tough. Giving you tough love. That's the best kind. Yeah, that's because I've been like, holy shit, you are so gay. But man, you're killing it, dude. I mean, I
could not have been gayer. And I looked down, and they were all like these big shitty grins on their face. And of course, when the show was over, I went to the lobby, and they're just like looking at me like this. But they gave me this big hug. You know what I mean? And like, dude, that was great.
That's awesome. You know what?
I was going to say, people would be surprised. Chris knows this too. Chris would be surprised. No, Chris is not surprised. I think a lot of people would be surprised at the kind of weird, I'd sort of say interesting background of a lot of guys in our community with these different. Wilkow called Green Berets warrior nerds, which I thought was a pretty cool thing because and I think there's some of the smartest guys I ever met were just in the straight infantry because you know what? You're a problem solver. Like you can't sit there in the infantry and go, well, that's raining today. We can't do that. Or like, oh, our vehicle broke. We can't do that. Or find another way to do it. So like problem solving is in my case, in my way of looking at it, is a much better sort of measure analytic for intelligence because like you may not be book smart, but there's dudes who are right, Chris. There's guys making shit happen with nothing out there in the field, and so but like guys have dude. I was in SF with a dude who was like an astrophysics guy. Like he was an 18 Delta. He was such a weirdo, but he was great. And like there's weapons guys that are like incredibly literate, smart guys. I mean, some of us are idiots, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I think people will be surprised at the varying and kind of interesting level of like thoughtfulness that dudes in our community have.
Brilliant. I was with actually 519th after Ranger Battalion. I went to 5th Battalion 19th Special Forces. I didn't know that. Yeah. But speaking of that, because I don't wonder if this is the same guy, the astrophysicist you went through, my Zulu, his name was Tim Ward. He was Master Sergeant Tim Ward. He's now Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Tim Ward. He's retired. He was an astrophysicist. Actually, he left our ODA. He was the Command Sergeant Major of Space Command of NORAD. And I'm wondering if that's the same guy.
It wasn't Tim Ward. I won't say his name, but he was a really funny, quirky. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. But I'm not surprised, and that I think it's always a surprise when people learn like, oh, those guys have some interesting backgrounds because it only helps the effort, if you can sort of think inside that box. Yeah,
it's true. I picked up on it just interviewing guys. You know what I wanted to ask you about though? One show that you did that I haven't asked you about yet that I was a fan of, it was a great show, was Dude, You're Screwed. And
right.
If I remember correctly, if you're allowed to, if you could talk about this, because we've had him on the show, I feel like you, from what I remember, you and Jake Zwig legit did not like each other, right?
Well, here's a funny story.
I remember, I don't think it was for the show. I think you guys legit just clashed. You don't like each other.
Well, initially we did. When we filmed the pilot, we were in Denver doing the pilot where we capture the British guy who's an amazing guy. And by the way, I'm friends with all these dudes. We all ended up becoming very tight. But
it was a great show. It was a great show, man.
And it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun show to do. But like, I'd never picture this, they fly me into Denver, and we meet each other. And there's Jake kind of holding court, talking all this smack about being a SEAL and everything. And I was just like, okay. And then but then I found out listening. And by the way, Jake is such a good dude. He's got such a big heart. He's a really great guy. But I didn't know this. All I saw was what I was seeing. And so I see this dude kind of loud and blah, 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 blah. He's like talking shit. Then I also learned that he did not go into the GWAT. I came back in the month after 9/11. He got out right before. He never came back in, which, by the way, I didn't care, but I was like, he's talking smack. And then it was pretty funny, dude. We did this thing. I had to shoot this like net gun at John Hudson and capture him in this alleyway. And the gun was like, the loads for this round that was shooting the thing were like these Chinese, and they were just so inconsistent. Like one time I shot it went way over his head. Then another time it was like it was all over the place. So Jake's like sort of talking shit, going, "Yeah, look at the Green Beret. He can't even shoot." And I didn't even know this dude. And I look over at him, I go, "Hey man, he'll tell you this because I love the guy. But here I am not knowing this dude at all. All I know is though he wrestled for Navy and he was a nose guard for Navy football. So he's a monster. He's kind of a heavy dude, but he's a legitimate great athlete. He's a great swimmer. So I just knew he was tough. But then I go up to him, I go, in front of everybody, I go, "Hey man," I go, "it's kind of funny you talking smack about me because you're talking about your SEAL time." And I said, "Nothing you did was downrange. You don't have a single combat deployment. So how does it feel to know that everything you're saying is fucking irrelevant? Everything you're saying is irrelevant, Jake. It's just the school." And he was like, "Oh, so it's like that?" I said, "Yeah, it's like that." So we kind of had this sort of like, and I'm thinking to myself, I know how to fight, but I'm not the best. But I was like, this is a problem because Jake would absolutely whip my ass. And I'm thinking, man, I hope he doesn't call my bluff on this. And thank God he didn't. But, we kind of got on each other's, we kind of were going at each other during the pilot because he was really mean to Hudson. He didn't give it. I was like, dude, he's going to die, But Jake and I will tell you this, Jake and I ended up becoming very, very good friends. He's reached out to me a couple times to see if I'm doing good. He's a really big hearted guy. He's that kind of brash dude. And I just was like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to that. But I mean, but he's a legitimately good dude. He is a legitimately great guy. I can't say enough good things about him, actually.
That's good. The episode where he had to survive, because every person had an episode where they had to get through basically a survival of 24 hours or.
No, it's actually 100. You have 100 hours to find humans, which is an artificial. Because sometimes the survival situation is better to just button up and make a shelter and wait for somebody.
I just remember his episode because the funniest thing was that you gave him one thing to eat. You gave him this bottle with fermented shark. And the moment the episode starts, Jake Swig goes, "Man, I don't eat fish. I'm not going to eat this shit." And he just chucks it. And then later on in the episode, he's like, "Man, I probably should have kept that."
Well, yeah, he was, because we were watching him on the camera. I was like, haha, he's going to have to eat this. And then he threw it away. I was like, whoa, bro, eat that. And then another time, actually, he in Namibia, which is on the Skeleton Coast, where there's literally, the Portuguese called it the Skeleton Coast because the dunes go right up to the water, and you'll just see dead seal skeletons everywhere because shit washes up there, and they're gonna die because there's nothing to eat, nothing to drink. It's really this weird wasteland. And he was doing his survival stuff, and I was like, during the show, I was like, we need to get him out. He's gonna fuck, because he ate some plants and he was throwing up. He was literally dehydrated. He was like, so we went in, and I actually on camera stuck him with an actual IV, and got it hung up, and we got him in the helicopter and exfilled him. And people were saying, "Oh, that wasn't real," because what happened was Discovery cut that. You didn't see me sticking the catheter in his vein, but I actually got a real IV, and people were like, "Was that real?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, I needed to get an IV in that guy." But Discovery didn't want to see the needle going into the vein. It was kind of funny, but that was a great show. We did 2 seasons. I think we were the victim of timing because networks at that point were like, because it was a lot of money to make that show. We were all over the world, and we're taking the whole team to Iceland. We're taking the whole team to Nicaragua or Romania, and then we have air assets, we have helicopters, we have support teams in the woods. It's a big project, And I think they spent a lot of money on that show. And I think they got a new leader right around then. It was like he tabled everything in Discovery. He's like, yeah, we can't do that. So I still get, it's weird. I think the last airing of that show was like 2012 or 2013, and people still recognize me for it. They recognize me for that and Gutfeld. So I was like, damn, dude, Gutfeld. They got to remember me from Gutfeld. All this other fantastic work, nobody knows. I'm just kidding.
The only thing I had, and it was actually something that Ian brought up, was in that picture.
Oh yeah, I was gonna make sure we get into that.
But yeah, that's really because I've covered everything that I've wanted to talk about, Terry, and you've actually gone above and beyond the things I want to talk. But yeah, I mean, Ian, if you got any, but if not, then
I mean, that was my last question. You want me to ask it? Since
well, Ian brought it to my attention during the January 6th, whatever you want to call them, January 6th.
I know where this is going to go.
Yeah, there was a picture that says "Teamwork make the dream."
And when you say the picture, we should say it was a sticker. It was a sticker that people put up in the Capitol of you in this little bathing suit, almost like a Speedo, looking jacked as hell, by the way. And yeah, it said "Gold Core, teamwork makes the dream work." And I remember part of what I remember seeing on X at the time, like, you know, I don't know much about this. I don't even know what you talk, but they were trying to tie whatever this group was putting these stickers up to some like white supremacist group. And of course I was like, I know Terry pretty well. That's the polar opposite of what Terry is or what Terry's all about. But I am as confused as anybody as to why there were stickers put up at the Capitol of you in a little bathing suit. It was, so I had to ask you if we can.
I'm just on the set. I just want to know about the sex.
First of all, I need you fuckers to admit that I look sexy as fuck. You got to admit that.
Oh, hell yeah.
You do. All right.
All right, let's move on. And then, but the thing was that these dudes made a sticker with like the red laser eyes, and it said "Teamwork makes it." They sent me a t-shirt with that on it. Now, here's what happened. Some guys made that into a sticker, and on January 5th, which was the day before the Capitol, they were walking around like, you know, and they stuck this sticker. I was not there. I was down. I don't even know if I was in North Carolina, but I wasn't up there. And they stuck this sticker on a elected representative's door, and here's a little picture of me in a bathing suit going, "Teamwork makes the dream work." They posted that on Twitter, and I thought it was funny because I was like, "Oh Jesus, here we go." And all I wrote was this: "We are everywhere, we are nowhere." And then the next day was a Capitol riot. So there were people coming after me. I actually got in touch with Outdoor Channel. I said, "Hey, just so you know, this is a little weird because their Outdoor Channel was super cool about it." I said, "I wasn't there. These guys, I didn't know they were going to put this sticker up." But it became kind of a thing where people were like, "Look at this white supremacist." I was like, I wasn't even there. I wasn't even there. So it's like, you know, yeah, that was damn, dude. That was like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be in trouble for something I didn't even do. You know, I had nothing to do with.
Look at this white supremacist in these short shorts, looking all sexy with the rain. Because that's what that's what you go for when you're a white supremacist. I know there's deliverance and all with some whites. I get it, guys, but it's closet. It's still a don't ask, don't tell environment where they're not going to put a freaking sticker like that. I just thought it was hilarious because I had never seen it. Ian goes, "You see this price or what?" He showed it to me. I did. I was on the floor laughing, but it was classic. It would be like something we do on a skit. That was like exactly what we would do.
Better, but the problem was, and it would have been no big deal. Except for the next day, we had the January 6th riot, and everyone was like, "Oh, way to go, Schappert! Everywhere, nowhere. You're one of." And I was like,
I didn't know you said that. That's classic, dude. That is epic.
I was just like, I'm gonna get, but I was like, if someone comes to talk to me, I mean, you can check my phone. I was up here. I wasn't even up there. I had nothing to do with it. But still, tensions were so high after that. I was like, man, I'm gonna get jammed up for this. But I didn't because I didn't do anything. But still, the picture still pops up on Twitter every now and then, though. Like, okay.
Did people think you were there? Because with what happened on January 6th, they do try to tie. Like, I could tell you actually something that happened to me was that I got a call from someone at the New York Times, and they said, "Hey, we're trying to get in touch with some guy who was a military guy," and I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And they're like, "Oh, you interviewed him on Schappert Radio," and truthfully, I mean. Just like Chris and I've interviewed hundreds of people. I don't remember everybody, and I don't even remember this specific guy who happened to be there, but I had no information to give, nor would I. But like, were people trying to tie you to what happened that day when you weren't even there? Because that's happened to other people.
There were some people that were coming after me, and they already had a hard time with us because, you know, we're conservative and we're, you know, whatever. Sure. It all went away because there was nothing to it, but it was still like, it's just interesting how people jumped on top of that and were trying to, you know, kind of hammer me for it. I was like, you can hammer me all you want. I wasn't there. I didn't make that sticker. I didn't put it there. But yeah, it was like one of those things. I was like, oh boy, here we go. You know, here we go. So
honestly, you've gone above and beyond the stuff I wanted to talk about. I think this was amazing, dude. I love it, and you're just like the guy that I pictured you would be when I used to watch the shows, and because you were the only guy that would have a malfunction and not cut it, not edited it out. You'd be on like CQB. Well, damn it, I guess got to put a round in there, and they would keep it in the. You know how secure you have to be in yourself, and all these insecure public figure freaking influencers that have to edit after edit after to get it just right. And dude, he's out there. Oh well, shit! Guess I got to put around it, and they keep it. It was like, this guy's awesome. I love this guy.
Even on Hollywood Weapons, you know, like I have that one shot, and it's like, you know, I might not have a great day, and if I don't do as well, I shot pretty well generally speaking, because we like these different crazy situations. But like I'm the first one to say, I go, look, yeah, Clint Eastwood would have made that shot because, you know, he's Clint Eastwood. Yeah. But like, and I tell people, we didn't fake the funk. If I missed the shot, like I was taking several shots for the Quigley thing on the bucket, and I was like, God damn it, you know. And I finally ended up doing really good on the 800 something yard one. But like, if you the worst thing you could do is act like it didn't happen. Just go, yeah, well, yeah. I believe that, you know, because people, again, I kind of went back to my point before. We don't need to fake who we are. I mean, we make mistakes, and we're not perfect. And I think that, you know, I told guys, if you're going to do TV stuff, it sounds whatever, but be willing to be vulnerable, be willing to be a human being, because that's who you are on a team. It's not, you're not walking around trying to be joke. Don't be something that you're not, I guess is what I've told guys that are going on TV. Just be who you are. You're way more interesting with who you are than what you expect them to be, because that's going to be manufactured. Yeah. And the mistakes make it better. The mistakes actually make for better TV, honestly. You know?
And it's genuine, and it happens. We all miss. We all have bad. It doesn't make a difference how much you shoot. You're gonna have a bad day. You're just gonna throw a shot, and it's genuine. And to me, that's the real guy. That's the guy that I know has shot somebody in the face. This guy, no. This is the guy, and that's what made it so. That's what drew me in it, because I don't really like those shows. I'll be honest. I've never watched any other special operations, special forces, even my buddy Rudy Ray's. I don't watch it. I don't like it. It's all scripted. I hate yours. Were, man, it's good shit. I like it, man. Because honestly, the first time I watched this show, it was CQB. It was the first one, and I didn't know. I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and be that fucking armchair quarterback in my living room and talk shit about you, because here's another motherfucker trying to play the role. And I started like, yeah, that's all right. Yeah. All right. Holy shit, he missed. And he didn't. All right. This is my guy, right?
Well, I appreciate that, man. Because also, excellent. My goal, and I know we're going to wrap up here. Plus, I think we're going to get hit with more thunderstorms. But I think, you know, I think you do more for your community. And there's been projects in the past I've actually turned down because I was like, that's not me, and I don't need to be on TV so bad that I kind of make the regiment look bad. And so I think, you know, there's been multiple projects I was like, they're like, hey, we want you for this. And I kind of looked at what they were doing. I was like, I don't think I'm the right guy for this. And, you know, I think that I always thought, I remember I even said that to Jake one time too. I said, remember, dude, we're on a Discovery Channel show, but I'm representing the Special Forces Regiment and you're representing Naval Special Forces. So remember that, like you are representing that community. So look, you know, we all talk crap, we all have fun, we all fuck with each other, but
of course.
Be honest and be the kind of person that someone says that and goes, hey man, those guys seem like they're okay. And if you do that, you're going to be okay. If you don't do that, you're going to get jammed up.
That well said, man. That was well said. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you doing this, and I probably reached out too late, but you know, I guess it's never too late because people have been interested in hearing you on here. So at Terry Schappert on X. Anything else that you're promoting? Any other platforms, or just that?
Not really, man. I mean, like Hollywood Weapons is kind of like sort of like on ice right now. I think we're going to eventually get a season 7, but maybe not. I don't know. And then like I said, if people are interested in what we're doing with Task Force Dagger, with the remains recovery and also the rehab of guys, if you go to taskforcedagger.org, it's a really good charity. We do a lot of stuff we get guys at the Cleveland Clinic. It's not just the diving. We do a lot of stuff for the community, whether it's, Ranger Regiment. And by the way, if you're an infantry guy that got hurt supporting us, you're in the family. So it's a lot. We have a big group of people, and if you go to taskforcedagger.org, you kind of see some of the stuff we've done, and they're probably starting to put stuff out about the upcoming Portugal trip. But yeah, dude, I'm around. I'll talk to you fucking jamokes anytime. And, Chris, Chris, also, I want to say this too, man. I think you've been, you and the boys went through something really, really serious. And, from my point of view, as someone who wasn't there, but knows us, it's you. I thought you've represented us very, very well. I thought you were.
Thank you.
I've heard you speak about it. I've heard Tig. I'm trying to think who else I was listening to one time. It's just like, listen, I thought you've done a great job of being an ambassador for us, about doing that kind of stuff. I think that's all you can ask for. And I hope, I hope your family, I'm glad, like, your family's good. Like, dude, you fucking earned it, Tonto. And I hope I see you. I mean, you might not remember this. I met you in passing. Outdoor Channel only brought me to SHOT Show one time. I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, I'm a D-list cable celebrity. Get me to SHOT Show.
I remember you at SHOT Show the one time because you were the only guy on the floor of SHOT Show wearing like a cashmere sweater. I was like, this does not look very SHOT Show.
I was wearing a turtleneck, and my buddy said, that's a fetching. You look really sexy. And I said, why I'm wearing it. But I saw you real briefly. This is kind of when, like, this is when a lot of stuff, you were kind of like really like all over the place because your face was really, there was a lot going on with what happened.
I remember this. Yeah.
I saw you there. I said hi to you. I think I shook your hand and I said, hey man, right on. And that was it. But I do remember meeting you, and you were, considering you had like 8 million people in your face, you were certainly personable to me. And I appreciate it,
But I knew, I recognized your face just because of the shows. I would watch it, and you were really one of the first and foremost ones that started doing that before people started doing it a ton. And so it's like, and like I said, I didn't respect a lot of people within that genre because most of them were fake as shit. And you're one guy's like, it's like, he's okay. I said just like that, he's okay. I like this guy. And so I appreciate that.
If I get that compliment from Toronto, then I did okay. You know what I mean?
You're awesome, brother. And our paths will cross one of these days again. They will. It's destiny.
I believe that too. All the best to your family. And Ian, thanks for reaching out, man. And
of course,
you guys stay in touch, okay? I love you guys.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Terry. Dude.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battle Line Podcast and on Twitter at Battle Line Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.